Okay. Reading the literary inspirations. I'm going to put my bookmark in here. Closing the book for a second. If you excuse me, I don't want to do this in the microphone. I'm going to kind of distance myself away from it. You're going to hear me. Okay, just let me get it all out, okay? And then we'll go right back and I'll explain what I was doing. Hey, one second. Be right back. Why? Ah, damn it! Why do you do this? I hate when you do that. Pull this stupid, selfless card! She's not a stoic! She's the biggest, whiniest, most spineless piece of excrement I've ever had the misfortune to read about! I'm back. Okay, so it turns out that she wasn't originally going to pull out the Merchant of Venice to do the letter, in Breaking Dawn. She was really going to do Jane Eyre simply because Meyer likes that book and thinks that Bella's just like Jane Eyre, because she's a stoic and soldiers on and doesn't really keeps her pain internalized and doesn't whine about it and is just so strong and wonderful. Yes, she really did just say Bella's as strong as a character like Jane Eyre. And I know I've got some Jane Eyre fans out there, so why don't you do some screaming as well? I think you already have at one point. So, yeah, I'm just gonna move on from that. I let it out. I feel better. I do! I feel so much better now. I'm gonna take a drink real quick. Let's just move on. Okay. I see Meyer missed the point of A Midsummer Night's Dream. This lovely fantasy, the heartbreak of people not loving the right people, which happens all the time, is made right in this glittery instant of fairy dust. I love that book. That's part of the reason I love it. Midsummer Night's Dream was a comedy, yes. But, the emphasis was that fairies are not nice. Puck did all that for pretty much no reason. He was screwing with them. He was being a jerk. He was just screwing with them for practically no reason. Did you miss that point? Or are you of the opinion that fairies are all the butterfly wings and all pretty and nice and wonderful? Old school fairies are bad. Though, as is proven, you can defeat them with microwaves. More emphasis that the Merchant of Venice was the inspiration. I haven't recapped Breaking Dawn yet, so I don't want to go too much into it. But the main thing I'm going to go into right now is there's no way to win this one with a physical fight. Everyone's going to lose if that happens. How could the Cullens lose to the Volturi in a physical fight? It's a simple question. How? With Bella on their side, the Volturi got rendered helpless. They've got Zephrina, the Amazon, who does the illusions. They've got the werewolves on their side. They've got Edward, who can hear all their thoughts. They've got Benjamin, Captain Planet. They've got an insane artillery, plus Bella, who renders all of them completely helpless. They can't do anything to them. There was no possible way the Cullens could lose. What logic did you use to say, well, I couldn't have it in a physical confrontation because I didn't want anyone to die, and, well, all my good guys would have died because the Volturi are just that powerful? No! You supercharged the other side. They would have beaten them. And it would have been, truncated and short and all that. No. Why don't you say the real excuse, Meyer? Every time an action scene has been about to break in your novels, you've run away from it with your tail between your legs. You just don't want to write action. Let me tell you, all the emphasis on how much Meyer loves Shakespeare is making me mad. Again, it's so affected. I love Shakespeare and Jane Austen. I'm just such a deep reader. No, you're not. You don't get them when you do read them. What does this even mean? Every time you pick one thing for your story, like Bella is a brunette, all her blonde and red-headed possibilities disappear. Because apparently the color of her hair means her whole personality is going to be altered. Well, I suppose if she'd be blonde, she'd be, an airheaded bimbo, right? One of those ditzy cheerleaders that always got you down in high school? Is that what you're saying? Huh? Time for On Eclipse. Whoa! I felt a little presumptuous when I started working on writing Twilight from Edward's perspective because I'm not a boy. Ooh! Yeah, I know what you meant, but, given the anti-feminism in your stories, that just jumped out at me in the worst way. She's trying to say she has a feel for boys because she lives with her husband and 3 sons. No, both the times you've written from the point of view of a male, they sound exactly like Bella does, because that's the only perspective you can write. 17-year-old, whiny, emo, harlequin, vanilla romance. That's it. You can't write from a male's perspective. Wow. Sometimes people tell me, so girls are coming away from your books with this fill-in-the-blank impression. Maybe something like, you should hold out for the perfect gentleman. In which case, I could say, well, that's a positive message. You should not let people treat you badly. If you're dating somebody who doesn't put your well-being first, if they're being mean or cruel to you, get away from that. And that's a great message. If you're with a mean, nasty boyfriend, run away right now. No comment. Yeah, that last one just kind of stunned me. The rest of it wasn't all that impressive. So, the end of this part was just Meyer trying to hand wave. I don't have any author responsibility because, my purpose, the stuff I write is meant to entertain. So if you come away from it with a message, well, that's your fault. Yeah, way to shift the blame, Meyer. Alright, moving on to finding story ideas. Next section. The longest part of writing Breaking Dawn was writing right after all the action sequences. What action sequences? You've never written an action sequence in your life! What are you talking about? There are just some things that are not exciting, but I like to write minute by minute, and when I have to write, and then 3 months past, it kills me. Considering how many bad airhead transitions I've noted in your books, it obviously doesn't kill you that much. Also, and then 3 months past, it kills me. I have 4 words for you, Meyer. 4, okay? Just 4. October, November, December, January. That's all I have to say to you. Yeah, this section she didn't really talk about story inspiration at all. I noticed she doesn't really talk about what she needs to talk about in these sections that they're labeled. I don't get it. They should have just had it go. This is an incoherent mess. Okay, on celebrity and excess. Oh boy. Yeah, all she did was talk about how awesome she is. I'm not really interested in going through that because she does it all the time. On balancing writing and life. I did not call myself an author without making some kind of snide comment for at least 2 years after the book was sold. Well, you know what? It's about 6 years after the book was sold, and I'm still making snide comments every time you call yourself one. I've gotten enormously busy, I've changed, I don't have as much time for social things, and I do think that I probably lost some friends just out of sheer neglect because I wasn't going to neglect my kids. You just admitted at the first part of this interview that you did neglect your kids in favor of roaming and romping around in Forks with your sparkly new boyfriend. Continuity in your own interviews, please? My kids are really, really great. They're good and they're happy. I've seen kids who are treated like the center of the universe, and I don't think that's entirely healthy. I'm sorry. Something was in my throat. I'm terribly sorry. Back to reading. I think it's really good for my kids to see that I have my own life outside of them, that I'm a real person. I think that's going to help them when they grow up and have children to realize that they're still who they are. Considering all that I yelled about already, about how uncomfortable I get when she talks like she almost resents her children, and then wrote in Breaking Dawn her ideal child, the daughter she never had. So, 1, she said, I always wanted a daughter, but I got 3 boys. 2, the daughter she never had raised itself, and she only had to interact with her when she was being really cute. Again, I really can't say anything because it just makes me uncomfortable. Well, I'm just moving on. Yeah, that section just made me uncomfortable. We're moving on to reading and writing for young adults. I just read this whole section on reading and writing for young adults. All she did is once again talk about how she's a reader and how awesome she is and how, she reads all these deep books and is so wonderful and is so great. And that's the end of the interview. That's it. That's the end. I'm face palming right now. I know you can't see it. That's it. That's what she ended it on. Talking about how she's a reader and she's a writer and she's just so awesome. But really, that's what the whole interview was. So I shouldn't be all that surprised. So, did we learn anything new? No. The majority of those quotes that I read in there, some of them were already out on the internet. They hadn't published the whole interview, but pieces of it. I recognized some stuff I read. Everything she said was just the same regurgitated nonsense that she always says anytime someone asks her a question. She never says anything new, and most of it revolves around how awesome she is and that fake, humble attitude she's got. It is so obviously fake. Because it's one thing to say a couple of times, I never imagined this would happen. I never imagined I'd be published. She constantly talks about how, I never imagined I'd be published, and I'm always thinking, this is it, I'm never going to be published again. Oh, did I mention that? I don't think I'm good enough. I'm obviously not good enough. I'm not. It's over and over again. She's fishing. It's more than obvious that she thinks that. Otherwise, she takes the criticism and just goes home and whines at how mean people are. It's one thing, she doesn't say, a real person who believes that their writing sucks goes home and says, they're so right, this is terrible, I knew no one would like it. No, she just goes home and whines about how mean people are, meaning some part of her honestly believes she is that awesome. So the whole thing is conceited. The whole thing was contradictory. There were plot holes in it. She contradicted stuff she said at the first of the interview, at the end of the interview. She didn't talk about anything new. That interview didn't need to be in there. It was completely unnecessary. That was 66 pages that should have just been published in an article online somewhere. That did not need to be there. And again, I must emphasize, it's 3 years old. It's 3 years old. That shouldn't have been in there. That was completely unnecessary. Okay, that's the first one. I can tell you, I don't know how many parts I was going to make this, but I guess we'll find out when I cobble it all together. That's not part 1, that's episode 2. Next episode, we will be getting into vampires, and I've already decided episode 3 is going to be from page 68 to 84. Just the vampire general stuff, vampire history, vampire supernatural abilities, their science. You're not supposed to say supernatural when you base them in science. So yeah, just all that. Hopefully that'll keep me down to one part, because I know this is going to be 2. Sorry about that. So that's episode 2. I'll see y'all in episode 3. Thank you for letting me scream and flail. See you around. 'Cause when you're